Hi, my name is Devan Díaz. I'm a writer from Jackson Heights. I am at the ISLAA Research Center studying Feliciano Centurión archival collection through the ISLAA Library and Archive. The earliest works in the archive are mostly comprised of figurative drawings and paintings. It seems to me that Centurión spent his life thinking about the body and working his way around it. Early on, we see the body in repose, the body in nature, and the body in relation to other bodies and beings. Then, as he sort of matures as an artist and the scale of the work gets larger with his frazadas, Centurión shields the body and provides shelter with his blankets or his frazadas. And finally, through his diagnosis, we see the interiority of a body with his needlework and the poetry and the awareness of a body, his body, that knows it's reaching its end. What most impacted me about the archive is the scrapbook that Centurión kept himself of all of the newspaper clippings and all of the magazine articles written about the work. And so, as someone who's written about artists, it was interesting to see an artist keep their own archive of magazine articles and clippings. So I got to sort of have a look at the other side of that gaze and spend time considering all of the articles that were written about Feliciano and the ones that he deemed worth keeping and scrapbooking. There's this personal essay that Feliciano clipped out of the newspaper and put into his scrapbook. It's about his work, but it's also about HIV. It's called Convivir con Virus, Living with the Virus. It is from the perspective of someone experiencing his artworks while also admiring Feliciano's openness about his diagnosis, while also taking that as an opportunity to be open about their own diagnosis. So he's saying these frazadas, these blankets that he made with so much love, like a grandmother's love, are these sort of affirmations. So this sort of interesting, this person is experiencing Centurion's work and connecting to it, and then Feliciano is connecting to it by clipping it out and preserving it, and sort of we get to experience that here. So it's sort of twofold. The viewer is feeling this comfort through Centurion's work, but also Centurion is feeling the same, I can only guess, by preserving it and keeping it here. The archive was kept up by Feliciano and Feliciano's partner, and it starts sort of like some point in the 80s and all the way through the end of Feliciano's life, which ended in 1996. So to see it in that chronological order really gives you a sense of how Feliciano's ideas of not only himself, but that the scene and El Centro Cultural Rojas that he was a part of, how this center and this group gained traction and how Feliciano was able to keep track of that. Here in the exhibition, we see that there are plants included in his shows, which creates the sense of environment. We see the sense of decoration, and he makes these environments as somewhere that you want to sit in and spend a lot of time in, and also calling back to nature and this sort of sense of animals and being part of the world. Feliciano was always insistent on his being part of the natural world. Despite his sexuality, despite his diagnosis, he was always in the world and always insistent that we were all in the world together. This article, Youth Blossoms in Springtime by Edward Shaw, is one of the only articles in the archive in English. It's sort of a review of a show that Feliciano did called Some Artists. And Edward Shaw says, some artists, a fortuitous grouping of 15 young talents whose only characteristic in common is having exhibited at the Rojas Cultural Center, won't be everybody's cup of tea, But it is here in the work of these emerging artists that creativity manages to show its occasional ugly little head. Art is about life, and life has its raw and perplexing side, and is about a society's constant reevaluation of aesthetics. And it is in this touchy area that these artists may offend a few sensitivities at a moment when most local curators are looking outside of themselves for inspiration. Mostly to far-off centers like Germany, Italy, or the United States, the Rojas 15 are exciting because much of the work comes within the microcosm of each individual's ability to express his creativity in personal, at times singular terms. In essence, these are the baby steps of a nascent art of the 90s, disconnected from the song and dance of the critics. So you really see here that these artists were finding their own rhythm in this newly free time, and it's sort of youth-based, but it's also this exciting time of freedom at a time where Latin America perhaps wasn't a considered part of the international landscape of art and artists. These artists really help bring Latin America and Buenos Aires to more of an international stage. I think what really touched me about the scrapbooks is seeing the way that they were clipped and yet another way to feel Feliciano's hand in the work. The glue, the articles that were pasted to the scrapbook that are maybe a little crooked or maybe slightly out of order, or his notes dating them, and it just felt like an extension of everything else that I've seen here at ISLAA. It was a way of being able to trace his hand and see how a record was kept